So, you know that feeling, right? That moment you're trying to talk to someone.
Yeah.
Explain something that seems perfectly obvious to you, and they don't get it.
Or they react in a way that feels totally well off, frustrating.
Exactly. And you find yourself thinking, maybe not very nicely, what were they thinking? Or, why act like this?
hmm It's really easy then to see that person as difficult, maybe even, well, like the title of the book suggests.
Yeah, the title we're diving into today.
And that feeling, that sort of fundamental misunderstanding or being surrounded by people you just can't figure out, it's super common, leads to friction.
Right. So this deep dive is all about unpacking Surrounded by Idiots, The 4 Types of Human Behavior, by Thomas Erikson.
And how to effectively communicate with each in business and in life. Quite the title.
It is. And our mission here is really to pull out the key stuff from this source, get a grip on the framework it uses for behavior.
And hopefully understand a bit more about why people do what they do.
Which ideally makes those frustrating moments, less frequent, or at least easier to handle.
Definitely. But we absolutely have to tackle that title first, head on. The book does it right away.
Good.
Because it is provocative.
Yeah, the foreword, the intro, they make it really clear. The idiots aren't like people with low IQs.
Okay.
The argument is when we think someone's being idiotic, it's usually because their behavior is just different from ours.
And we're seeing it through our own lens.
Exactly. So the real goal, the book says, isn't judgment. It's moving towards respect, understanding, valuing those differences.
Okay, right. Respecting the differences. So let's unpack that first big idea the book lays out. Communication. It happens on the listener's terms, not mine.
That's the core concept. Think about everything you say, everything you do, it gets filtered.
Filtered how?
Through the other person's, frame of reference. Their past experiences, biases, their ideas.
Huh. So the message they get isn't always the one I sent. Often not exactly no. You have surprisingly little control over how someone is fundamentally wired to interpret things.
Wow. Okay, that has huge implications for how we interact then.
It really does.
It means I can't just, act how I want or what feels natural to me all the time.
Precisely. The book really hammers this point and develop flexibility in how you communicate.
Flexibility, like adapting.
Yeah, adapting to how they prefer to get information, how they want to be treated.
Yeah.
Because whatever your natural style is, direct, chatty, quiet, analytical, you're always in the minority. Most people don't function just like you. So adapting is, well, it's key to being effective.
Okay, so understanding these behavior styles, it's not about labeling people.
Not for judgment.
It's more like making educated guesses about how they might react, how I can maybe adjust my approach to connect better.
Exactly. It's about boosting your chances of actually getting through. Now, the book is also quick to say, look, this isn't perfect.
Right. People are complicated.
Incredibly complex. We're not, simple spreadsheets you could just plug numbers into.
Huh. Definitely not. But I guess having a basic framework helps avoid the really obvious blunders.
Totally. And it's important, the book points this out. We're talking behavior patterns.
Patterns, not single actions.
Right. The typical attitudes, beliefs, approaches someone uses over time. Now, a specific action might be right or wrong in context.
Sure.
But the underlying behavior pattern itself, it isn't inherently good or bad. It just is. It's how they tend to operate.
That makes sense. And the book says there are only, 2 situations where you can really just be yourself without thinking about this stuff?
Only 2, according to Erikson. First, when you're completely alone.
Okay, you're up.
Scream, dance, whatever. No need to adapt. Second, when everyone else around you is exactly like you.
Which almost never happens.
Pretty rare, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically any other time, having some kind of framework for understanding how others see you and how they work. It's just really helpful.
Like a toolbox.
Yeah, the book uses that analogy. Different behaviors are like different tools. You wouldn't use a screwdriver for a nail.
Right.
So categorizing isn't wrong if you're using that understanding that tool in the right way.
And it even defines normal behavior in this context.
It does. Lists things like being relatively predictable, part of a pattern, changeable, observable, understandable, unique, and excusable. It's about tendencies, not rigid boxes.
So where did these patterns come from? Nature? Nurture?
The book says, well, it's both, a mix. Heredity gives us a kind of baseline temperament, certain traits. But our environment, our experiences, they shape our attitudes and approaches. Core values like believing in quality, those are deep, hard to change, learned early.
And attitudes, approaches.
Those come more from experiences later on. They're more adaptable. Like if you had a bad experience with a car salesman, you might get wary. But a good experience could shift that attitude. The key is they can change.
Got it. So core values, changeable attitudes, and then there's core behavior versus moderated behavior.
Right. Core behavior is like how you'd act with zero constraints, total freedom, which, as we said, barely happens, maybe when you're asleep.
Okay.
Moderated behavior is what we actually do. It's the behavior you choose based on interpreting, the situation, the people around you. That's the version of you others see and react to.
The mask we wear. Work mask, family mask.
Pretty much. And this leads to a simple formula the book gives. Behavior equals F equals SF.
Behavior is a function of personality and surrounding factors.
You got it. Behavior is what you see. Personality is underneath, harder to know directly. Surrounding factors are the things you can influence. And our behavior is always affecting the surrounding factors for others, and theirs affects ours. It's dynamic.
Which is a perfect lead into the main system, the 4 colors.
Exactly. Based on the DISA system, or the DISI, as in you know it.
Yeah.
Dominance, inducement or influence, submission or steadiness, and analytic ability or compliance.
And these map to 4 colors, red, yellow, green, and blue.
Correct.
And it's built on 2 axes, creating 4 quadrants.
That's right. One axis is task-oriented versus relation-oriented.
Okay.
The other is extroverted active versus introverted passive reserved.
And each color has a primary orientation based on where they fall, plus how quickly they react, what they focus on.
That's a great way to put it. Here's the quick breakdown for the book.
Right.
Reds. Quick reaction, max effort to control. Minimal interest in being cautious in relationships. Task-oriented, extrovert. Direct action.
Yeah.
Avoid unnecessary involvement.
Got it. Red. Control, task, extrovert.
Yellows. Rapid reaction. Max effort to involve others. Minimal interest in routine. Details.
Yeah.
Relation-oriented extrovert. Impulsive action. Reject isolation.
Yellow. Involve, relation, extrovert.
Greens. Calm reaction. Max effort for connection, harmony. Minimal interest in change or conflict. Relation-oriented introvert. Supportive action. Reject conflict.
Green. Connect, relation, introvert. The calm ones.
And blues? Slow reaction, max effort to organize, analyze. Minimal interest in relationships unless task-related. Task-oriented introvert. Cautious action. Avoid excessive involvement or emotion.
Blue. Organize. Task. Introvert. The careful ones.
You nailed the keywords. And the book does say, look, most people are a mix. Usually 2 colors dominate. Some lean heavily on one, maybe a few show bits of 3.
But it focuses on the single colors first, like building blocks.
Exactly. And the descriptive words for each are really revealing.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
For red, you get words like aggressive, ambitious, strong-willed, decisive.
Okay, I can picture that.
Yellow, talkative, enthusiastic, optimistic, persuasive.
The life of the party.
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
Green, patient, relaxed, reliable, friendly, stable.
Steady eddies.
And blue.
Mm-hmm.
Conscientious, systematic, correct, quality-oriented, analytical.
The detail people. Looking at those lists, you can totally see envying someone else's strengths, right?
Oh, absolutely. Wanting that red decisiveness, or the yellow social ease, or the green calm, or the blue precision.
And the flip side, seeing your own potential downsides.
Definitely. Your red drive maybe looks like bossiness.
Yeah.
Your yellow energy feels like sucking up all the oxygen.
Yeah. Or green calmness seems like being wishy-washy.
Or blue analysis comes across as being nitpicky or suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
The framework helps you see both sides, in yourself and others.
All right. Let's dive deeper. Starting with red behavior. The book calls them alphas, choleric, bold, ambitious, driven. They don't hide who they are.
No, reds are pretty upfront. They're all about getting things done, hitting high goals. They push hard, don't give up easily, and really believe in their own capabilities.
Task-oriented extroverts.
Right. They love a challenge, make quick decisions, comfortable leading, taking risks, often seen as natural leaders because they just take charge.
And the competitiveness. It sounds intense, even over small stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's just how they operate. The book has that funny story about Pele, the neighbor.
The gardening competition.
Yeah. Suddenly becomes a rival gardener just to win. Or the CEO in the company's soccer game, absolutely crushing everyone because, hey, it's a tournament. Winning is the point.
So communicating with a red, frame things as challenges, focus on results.
That's a good takeaway. They're also usually the loudest, first to jump in, very blunt, direct.
Which can feel aggressive.
Absolutely. To them, it's efficient, honest, but yeah, it can land hard. Plus, they've got tons of energy, hate being idle, wasted time.
Slog or split.
Right. Massive effort for important tasks, completely ignore stuff they think is pointless. So if you're talking to them, get straight to the point.
Yeah.
Outcome first.
Time is money really fits them then.
Perfectly. Quick is good. Sluggishness is like torture. Move on. Decide fast. That Bjorn CEO guy with the 8-second phone calls?
Yeah.
Classic red efficiency. Just the facts, boom, done. They tack their days, always urgent, hate inactivity. If you need something, be concise. Respect their time.
And the ambition sounds kind of boundless.
It often seems that way. They love tough tasks, see them as opportunities. That phrase, nothing is impossible, the impossible just takes a little longer.
Very red.
Totally. Super high demands on themselves, willing to work incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Power, status, they're not the end goal, but useful tools for making decisions, avoiding delays.
And they don't worry much what others think.
Generally, no, not a primary concern.
They also sound incredibly convincing.
Oh yeah, they put everything into getting agreement.
Right.
That story about Elizabeth, the $50 million weekly revenue claim.
When it was really like $2.5 million.
Right, but her sheer confidence, her drive, it makes even wild claims sound like absolute truth. Powerful presence. If a red's pitching you, notice that conviction, focus on the results they promise.
Groundbreaking, strong-willed.
Yeah, they don't tend to follow the herd. Unyielding determination, often fearless when chasing goals. That's why you see lots of red entrepreneurs.
Like the guy dealing with the landlord.
Exactly. The guy from the second floor just bypassed the slow landlord, dealt directly with the contractor, just make it happen.
But they can change course quickly if a better idea pops up.
Yeah, they're not emotionally attached to their initial idea if a better solution appears. They'll pivot fast, which is dynamic, great for progress.
But maybe unsettling for others.
Can be, yeah. Especially for people who prefer stability.
So, famous reds. Who does the book list?
Steve Jobs, FDR, Venus Williams, Margaret Thatcher, Barack Obama, and, interestingly, Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa. Why?
Seen through the lens of her fierce determination, her strength, dealing forcefully with powerful leaders to get what she needed for her mission.
Huh. Okay. Let's move to yellow behavior. Sanguine, optimistic, cheerful. The man of possibilities. Sounds like fun.
Yellows often are fun. They live to live, find enjoyment driven by merriment, laughter, sunshine seekers.
Find the silver lining.
Always can laugh, even with bad news.
Yeah.
Often the center of attention, just radiating energy. And they talk a lot.
Tell me about it.
All the time.
Ah.
Give answers, even if you didn't ask. Love telling stories. Marita, the sister in the book, great example. Easygoing, connects easily, sometimes speaks before thinking, and their behavior is just infectious. So talking to a yellow, be ready for conversation, personal stories.
And that it just felt right decision-making.
Very yellow, more touchy-feely, comfortable with quick decisions based on gut feeling, intuition, rather than loads of analysis. Highly relation-oriented extroverts.
Focused on connections.
Totally. Outgoing, persuasive, enthusiastic, happy to share feelings. To connect with a yellow, start personal. Show enthusiasm.
They don't seem shy.
Not usually. Strangers are just friends you haven't met yet.
Yeah.
Their optimism is almost bulletproof. Always smiling, laughing.
Energetic, curious.
Incredibly so. Find most things interesting. Put energy into new ways of doing things. They're the ones with the most holiday cards, most contacts, most Facebook friends.
Unlimited optimism and enthusiasm. Sounds like it could be a lot for other types.
It can be, but it's their fuel. They excel at spotting opportunities, finding solutions. Their positivity can just bulldoze negativity. Remember Mike, the jinxed friend?
The one with constant bad luck.
Yeah, but he never stays down, just bubbles along. That's yellow resilience. They're inspiring, can get people to do amazing things by focusing on the positive, ignoring the hurdles. Like Marianne, the sales director, palming that furious customer with sheer charm and positivity.
So leading yellows means focusing on excitement, possibilities.
And the positive impact on people, yeah.
Also described as resourceful, creative.
See solutions others miss. Great at twisting ideas, thinking outside the box. Robin the designer is the example.
Thinking in images.
Right. Courage to try new things. Mouth working parallel to the mind. Super fast intellect. Hard to keep up sometimes. They rarely see limitations. Invaluable for new ideas, fresh perspectives.
And persuasive, too.
Oh, masters of it. That energy, optimism, getting carried away. It's contagious. Great with language, vivid imagery, appeals to senses, plus body language, lots of gesturing, skilled speakers. understand ethos, the power of the messenger, and they connect personally friendly comments, make you feel important. Think Bill Clinton's charisma.
So if you need to persuade a yellow.
Appeal to emotion, enthusiasm, connection. Make it exciting.
And relationships are obviously huge for them.
Absolutely critical. They need to cultivate connections, personally and professionally. In business, they get the value of their network instinctively.
They know everyone.
Seems like it. And like everyone, unless you actively dislike them, you're basically a pal. Team functioning smoothly is vital. Remember, reds want to know what, yellows want to know who.
Right, the who is key. Team dynamic matters.
Massively.
Famous yellows.
Oprah Winfrey, Robin Williams, Ellen DeGeneres, and fictional ones like Pippin from Lord of the Rings, Han Solo from Star Wars, that enthusiastic, relational, maybe slightly impulsive vibe.
Got it. Okay, on to green behavior. The book says this is the most common type.
Yeah, the balanced, calm, leisurely, easygoing ones. Phlegmatic, earth people. Often they counterbalance to the extremes.
They don't stick out.
Generally, no. They bring serenity, stability, calmer than reds and yellows. They tend to sort of feel their way through things, unlike blues who get deep into details.
Easier to deal with.
The book emphasizes that. They let you be you, don't demand much, don't kick up a fuss unnecessarily. They try to fit in. Great for calming down an excitable yellow or warming up a reserved blue.
Like that couple example.
Yeah, the yellow husband performing, the green wife just quietly smiling along, very tolerant of different behavior in others. So communicating with a green, calm, patient, low pressure.
Kindness personified. That sounds lovely.
They often really are. Natural helpers, deeply relational, invest long-term in relationships. Always remember birthdays.
Like Maja the helper.
Perfect example. Always saying yes, organizing things for everyone, remind about family stuff, just natural, selfless kindness. And they're usually the best listeners.
Really listen.
Genuinely interested in you, your problems. Might not jump in with solutions like a red, but they really hear you. Don't talk just to talk. The seller, Helena.
Who listened to the guy talk about his car.
And got the sale. Perfect example. If you need someone to truly listen, find a green.
Definitely sound like team players.
The ultimate. Team, group, family often comes before the individual green. Care for the sick, the weak. Won't leave a friend hanging. Like Lassie, the friend who drops everything to help.
Even forgets his own stuff.
Yeah. So working with greens. Emphasize teamwork, collaboration, how it affects the group.
Reliable and predictable, too.
Yes. They do what they say they'll do.
Yeah.
Maybe not the fastest, but they deliver. And they hate conflict.
That dislike of conflict?
It's a huge driver. Wanting to make others happy, keep things smooth, makes them stable, loyal employees. Don't mind orders if they seem reasonable or help the team. So be predictable and reliable with them.
But that dislike of conflict and change can be tricky.
For sure. They love stability, predictability. When trouble hits, they tend to sort of murmur and keep going rather than confront it directly.
Hard to get a straight answer sometimes.
Because they're trying to please everyone, keep the peace. They can adapt to change if it's clearly justified and they get enough time to process.
But they'll sigh about it.
Probably remind you, well, you always know what you have. So if you need a green to accept change, explain clearly, give notice, stress the stability within the change.
And their opinions are pretty fixed once formed.
Tend to be, yeah. Consistent. Like Gregor, the CEO, predicting his green manager's answers.
Greens don't seem to want the spotlight.
Not usually, no. Group first. They'll set aside their own needs if the group benefits or stays harmonious, thoughtful, considerate. Remember Christopher?
Locked out in the cold.
Called and chatted for 15 minutes before even hinting he needed help. A green often struggles to ask directly for themselves.
So if you need something from a green...
Ask clearly, directly. Show how it helps the group, or is fair.
Famous greens.
Mr. Rogers, Gandhi, Michelle Obama, Jimmy Carter. And Jesus, focusing on that helping others, calm, empathetic presence.
Okay, last one. Blue behavior. Reserved, analytical, detail-oriented. Pessimist or realist? Melancholic.
Blues are the masters of organization, precision. Everything in order, labeled structured routines, from dinner menus to tool sheds.
And they have the right answers.
Usually because they're constantly analyzing, classifying, evaluating.
Right.
The friend correcting facts about the Patriots and Will Smith.
With sources.
Exactly. They know where it came from, can prove it. If you want to connect with the blue, be accurate. Bring data. Be ready to back it up.
How they see themselves. Accurate, cautious, correct, detail-oriented, logical, methodical. Wow, it's all precision.
It really is. And often, they're surprisingly modest about it. Don't need to toot their own horn.
But the downside is, They might not share unless asked directly.
Right. Like the blue who waited 2 hours in a meeting with the answer because, well, you never asked.
Yeah.
They don't need applause. Doing it right is the reward. Respect their process, their need for info.
Detail-oriented sounds like an understatement for blues.
Oh, for a blue, God is in the details. Cutting corners. Not happening. They believe not having full control is the same as not having any control at all.
Like the CEO buried in the proposal.
Constantly asking, is there any more material? The analysis itself was almost more interesting than the decision. They'll burn the midnight oil checking facts. So presenting to a blue. Provide tons of detail. Anticipate questions.
Caution and safety first are big too.
Huge. The journey, doing it right, is often more important than speed. Rarely take big risks without deep analysis, mitigation plans,
3 alarm clocks.
leaving super early triple-checking locks, systems to manage risk. The upside, rarely caught off guard. Like the blue seller who thought the best deal is often the one you didn't make. Very cautious.
And quality is everything.
Non-negotiable. Things cannot go wrong. Quality is paramount. Work might stop if quality is at risk. Think Toyota's ask why 5 times.
Finding the root cause.
Exactly. Like the oil stain example, why did it happen? Not just cleaning it up. Blues truly believe if a task isn't worth doing properly, it's not worth doing at all. Satisfying a blue? Quality and accuracy above all.
They also sound incredibly honest.
Very difficult for them to lie or fudge things. They'll point out flaws, even if it reflects badly. Like the father selling houses.
Pointing out the problem.
Despite his mother's horror. Because it was the honest, accurate thing to do.
Logic and rationality rule over feelings.
As much as humanly possible, yes. Logic, rational arguments are gold. They can repeat tasks endlessly if the method works. Won't change just because they're bored.
The IKEA furniture example.
Oh, yeah. Reading the manual twice, checking every part, counting screws. Meticulous. And the father measuring the gravel slope precisely.
Because it says so in the book.
Exactly. Or stopping at a red light at 3 a.m. when no one's around.
Oh.
Because that's the way you do it. Following the rules, the logical process. The value is that inner peace from knowing everything was checked, done correctly. Dealing with a blue. Lead with logic, data, not emotion.
And more introverted, quiet.
Often much more active internally. Don't talk just to talk. Value silence. If nothing relevant or accurate to add, they stay quiet. Tend to be observers, spectators.
Yeah.
Processing. Respect their quiet. Give them time to think.
Famous blues.
Bill Gates, Albert Einstein, Sandra Day O'Connor, Condoleezza Rice, and the ultimate fictional blue, Mr. Spock.
That's a great run-through of the 4 colors, their traits. Those examples really bring it to life. The book also gets into strengths and weaknesses, right? Reminding us nobody's perfect.
Right. And that loops back to the whole premise. The people you find difficult, the ones triggering that idiot feeling, they're just different. And crucially, your perception is key.
How I see their behavior.
Exactly. What's a strength in one context, like a red's decisiveness in a crisis, can easily look like a weakness, being bossy, controlling, in another, maybe a team meeting needing collaboration.
The book kind of summarizes the potential downsides when traits get amplified or clash.
Yeah. Reds make things happen, but can seem like control freaks, steamroll people. Yellows are fun, creative, but might dominate, seem unrealistic.
Greens are nice, reliable, but can look wishy-washy, indecisive under pressure.
And blues, calm and logical, but their critical thinking might turn into suspicion, getting stuck in analysis, holding things up.
It also mentions reds and yellows tend to inflate strengths, ignore weaknesses.
While greens and blues do the opposite. Exaggerate weaknesses, overlook strengths.
Yeah, which is fascinating. And maybe because of the book's title, it seems to focus quite a bit on how red behavior, specifically, is often perceived negatively.
Yes. How reds come across. That seems to be a major friction point identified in the source.
Makes sense.
Because while a red sees themselves as decisive, direct, getting stuff done, others, especially maybe greens and blues who value harmony and caution, can see it very differently.
How so?
The book uses words like belligerent, arrogant, egotistical, unyielding, impatient, aggressive, controlling, even dictatorial or tyrannical.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah. People with less assertive styles might feel intimidated, afraid of that fiery temper, that directness, which the red thinks is just efficient honesty.
Mine says aggression.
Frequently. And their tendency to argue passionately.
Yeah.
They might raise their voice, glare, maybe pound a fist if they feel strongly, even about small things. The example of asking a red for honest feedback.
Oh, yeah, the project feedback.
And getting back, it doesn't look that good. At least you didn't do better. Brutal honesty.
Ouch. But from the Reds' view, they were just being honest, as asked.
Exactly. For a red conflict disagreement. It's not necessarily bad, it's just communication, a way to work through stuff. The book's tip is interesting. If you're another color, don't back down from a red in conflict. Stand your ground calmly.
Okay. And the need to control.
Reds can feel uneasy if they're not driving things in a group.
Yeah.
So yeah, a desire for power over the situation, maybe individuals.
Yeah.
Strategies to keep control might be talking constantly, interrupting.
To dominate.
Yeah, and remember the driving example. Using the bus lane, seeing fines as just the cost of doing business to get there faster.
Right, breaking rules for efficiency.
Which leads others to see them as rule breakers. Again, the intention is usually about getting the job done fast and effectively from their perspective.
The book really uses how red weaknesses are perceived to explain why that style can be so challenging for others, leading to that idiot label sometimes.
It seems to focus there, yeah. Highlighting how that confident, direct red style can be misunderstood and cause friction. Now, the book doesn't give quite as many specific negative perception anecdotes for the other colors.
Right.
But based on the descriptions, you can imagine it, right? A yellow's constant talk and optimism might seem frivolous or unrealistic to a detail-focused blue.
Totally.
A green's calm patience in conflict avoidance could feel like frustrating indecisiveness or passivity to a fast-moving red or yellow.
Like, just make a decision.
Exactly. And a blue's careful, methodical approach could seem like getting bogged down, being overly critical, or just delaying everything to a results-driven red or a big-picture yellow.
That makes total sense. It really is about how these different styles just clash sometimes.
Well, this deep dive has given us a really fantastic framework for understanding these four types.
Yeah.
Learning this system feels like a shortcut to seeing different perspectives.
Giving those aha moments.
Yeah. Instead of just thinking, what is wrong with them? Exactly. The power isn't in just slapping a color label on someone and judging them. It's in understanding that different wiring leads to different behaviors. And that understanding, that's the first step to really improving communication, collaboration, pretty much everywhere in life.
Yeah, bringing it back to that core message. The people you find difficult, the ones who maybe feel like idiots in that frustrating moment, they're probably just operating from a totally different behavioral style. Recognizing that style, it can completely change the game, turn friction into connection.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on this idea. Strengths looking like weaknesses, intentions not matching perception.
Okay.
Think about someone in your life whose behavior you find, let's say, consistently challenging, irritating maybe. Based on what we talked about, what color might they primarily be?
Okay.
Now, flip it. Take an honest moment. How might your own natural style, your strengths as you see them, how might that be perceived as irritating or difficult by someone with a completely different color?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. But what does that realization mean for how you approach your next conversation with that challenging person, or really with anyone whose style is different from yours? Something to chew on.
Thanks for listening. Visit our library and subscribe below for more book summaries. This has been a Sprint Reads production.